All right, so a lot is making the headlines here in the country. And let me just give you a glimpse of what you need to expect here on KTN News Center for the next 2 hours. During this first hour, that is 9 to 10, we shall be giving you an in-depth coverage of the Malanga fire tragedy. 17 lives have been lost and other Kenyans are still in hospital trying to battle, some of the injuries that they had. And the government has so far said they're only going to be giving 50,000 shillings. But what is the area member of parliament saying about this? He's called for more help, not only from the government, but also in terms of financial help, but also calling for the health aid from the Ministry of Health and also wants the petroleum industry also to take a bit of, just to lift the burden that some of the victims and their families are facing. So on that note, I shall be speaking to MP Obambo, who is the Game Member of Parliament. He's already here in studio with me just to delve into this discussion and tell us what is the latest update, because so far we know that samples have been collected from the victims of the families, those people who lost their lives. Some were burned beyond recognition. Others is just, the bones that are remaining. And that is why samples were collected from the family members just to ease in the identity process. Now, away from that, you also need to expect from us a live coverage of the IEBC selection panel. Today is the final day, as that selection panel is only looking for 4 Kenyans who will be replacing, who will actually take over the leadership of the IEBC in terms of the vacancies that were left by 4 commissioners who left the commission after the 2017 repeat presidential election. Later on, we shall also be looking at issues to do with civil servants. And there is a proposal that they should actually increase the rent that they pay for the houses that are given by the government. We shall be talking to Tom Odege, Honorable Member of Parliament, on that, but representing the civil servants here in the country. My name is Brenda Zederadido, so there you have it, a full-packed bulletin for you for the next 2 hours here on KTN News Center. But first, let's begin with our top story about the latest information that we have for you on that Malanga fire tragedy. And to revisit the tanker tragedy that happened on Sunday. Now, the death toll in the Malanga tanker tragedy in the county of Siaya rose to 17 after 2 more victims succumbed to injuries at the Siaya County Referral Hospital. What you also know is that DNA tests were conducted on 12 victims of the tragedy at Yala Sub-County Hospital to establish their identity. Siaya Governor Rasanga said the county will waive the hospital bills for the victims and support the families that lost their loved ones. He said the county government has initiated plans for a multi-agency civic education drive about the dangers of fuel siphoning along the highway with partners such as the Kenya National Highway Authority. Game Member of Parliament MP Obambo said the victims of the Siaya fuel tanker accident will receive 50,000 shillings aid from the national government, and we'll be speaking to him in a bit. But before we speak to him, let's take a real look at the story that was done by Kevin Ogutu. Actually, the death toll is not 17, as I've told you earlier on. It's actually 19 and not 17. As of yesterday, it was 17, but today the death toll has risen to 19. So let's have a look at that story that was filed by my colleague Kevin Ogutu before we pick the mind of Game Member of Parliament MP Obambo.
A painful Sunday morning for this woman who lost a relative in the oil tanker accident in a game in the county of Siaya. A total of 13 people died from the accident. Sunday's tragedy bringing back painful memories of a similar accident back in 1998 at Sidindi, about 5 kilometers from here. This oil tanker quickly transformed into a death trap, and hours later, eyewitnesses had chilling tales of what transpired.
Moto ilikuwa kubwa sana, hatungeweza kufika karibu. Na kulikuwa na watu walikuwa wamechota mafuta ya kwanza wameenda. Wale walirudi ya pili ndio wale wameungua, ndio wale mafupa ambao mnaona iko mahali hapa. Kuna watu ya pikipiki, kuna wamama na kuna watoto.
Saa wenye kuzima moto wakikuja kuzima hiyo moto kuangalia hii line yote, kulikuwa na watu wenye walikuwa wamechomeka, wakina mama, wakina watoto, wakina baba, wengi walikuwa wamechomeka hapa.
Mwanzo wenye walitangulia kukuja walichota mafuta wakaenda nayo. Kurudi trailer ikalupuka.
Police say the Busia-bound tanker collided with a truck transporting milk that was coming from Busia heading towards Kisumu.
Katika hiyo hali, hiyo lori ya mafuta ilioverturn, ikamwaga mafuta chini. Wananchi wakakimbilia kwanza kutoa mafuta. Wakiendelea kutoa mafuta, lori lilipuka, ikaua watu 13 hapo. Ile mili tumesha confirm. Na watu 5 wamekuwa admitted at Yala Sub-County Hospital. Na watu 19 wamekuwa referred kwenda Siaya Referral Hospital.
5 survivors were rushed to the Yala Sub-County Hospital.
Nilikuwa naona ni kama ni kujisukuma ili ujiwezeshe upate kujisaidia, lakini ulikuwa moto mkubwa sana. Sababu haungewezekana hata kuona kule. Na hali ya kukimbia ulikuwa umenishika tayari kulingana na hali venye nilikuwa. Na ilipo kuchoma mikono ni vile mikono zangu ndio zilikuwa na nini na hiyo petroli. Na longi nilikuwa nayo ndio nini. Sasa hali za kukimbia hizi na kulikuwa na mwenzangu hapo pia nadhani yeye alibakia huko.
You cannot make a road without signage. The reason why this accident and tragedy has happened is because this particular area doesn't have any signage for the drivers to know that they're going through a bad patch.
Well, so far families from the neighboring homesteads here have reported 5 individuals missing, with the fear that they could have been consumed in the inferno here last night. Kevin Ogutu, KTN News in Game, Siaya County.
Right, there it is. It was a night of terror and horror for the families and the victims who lost their lives on a Sunday. So let me bring in a Game Member of Parliament, MP Obambo, into this conversation. And first of all, my condolences to the residents of Siaya County, your constituency, where all this happened. So far, as of yesterday, we're talking about 17 people having lost their lives. As of we are speaking right now, it's actually been confirmed it's 19 who've lost their lives. And it is a sad situation for you as a Member of Parliament in that county. What is the latest information so far?
Yes, Brenda, you're right. As of yesterday, 3 o'clock, there were 19 deaths. As of today, one just passed this morning, so there are 20 deaths. We have 19 patients in Siaya. We have 4 in Game and 1 in Madea.
So you're
Inuka Hospital.
So now the death toll has risen to 20.
We have 20 as we talk today.
So one of the patients has actually
passed on this morning.
Yeah. So now we move from 17 to 19. So now we are standing at 20.
Yes.
And the government had said they were actually giving 50,000 shillings, which, as for you, you felt like that is not enough. The petroleum industry also has to come in through the CSR activities that they do. Has that been done?
It has not happened yet. I appeal to the petroleum industries. I've spoken to one or two of the players in the industry and also reached out to the PS so that they can do something to the victims of the tragedy. I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic that they come through. For the little that the government has done, I'm very of a level of satisfaction because they have done something. One, they have done the DNA test. They have sent the disaster management team on the ground. Even as we talk, they're in Game. And I'm thankful for the Interior Minister for what they have done so far. Mm-hmm. But I'm appealing to the President. These are his citizens. He can do better.
Mm-hmm. And you know, as of yesterday, it's when the samples are being collected. I mean, DNA samples are being collected from the families of the victims so that the identification process can be done in an easy way, because some bodies were burnt beyond recognition. Others was just bones. Others were burnt to ashes. When are they likely to get the results so that they can start the burial plans? Because from that story that has been filed by my colleague Kevin Ogutu, families are saying they cannot even start burial plans because they don't know whether they'll be in a position to get the remains of their loved ones so that they can give them a decent send-off.
Brenda, the DNA tests were done on the 20th. That was Tuesday. The meeting with the families that bore the brunt of the tragedy. And what we have agreed that we expect that the DNA results could come back, possibly maybe in a week. Normally it takes 14 days. But I believe, given the information I have, hopefully in 7 days we should be able to be talking to those families. What I did on Tuesday, I donated 200,000 to those families so that it can help them even as they prepare to bury their loved ones. I've made a commitment as the MP for Game to donate the coffin boxes for those who have died. If Siaya County government comes through, I'll be also grateful. I'm grateful for Sangha for having made a commitment that is going to write off the hospital bill for the patients. But I'm appealing to the Minister for Health. The patients that are remaining, the 19 of them, a number of them have a higher percentage of toxin within their bodies, of burnt percentage, even the ones in Yala or the one in Inuka. So we want a better care for those patients. And the national government, the minister, is at a better place to be able to help these victims.
But then, Honorable Elisha, this is not the first time that this is happening in Siaya County. Some years ago, we had the Sidindi incident. And then a few years later, we are seeing what has happened again in Malanga in Siaya County. What is it that Kenyans, a section of Kenyans, do not learn from previous incidences, or is it because of lack of education? Because that is the same thing you had mentioned when I heard you speak live to my colleague Kevin Ogutu as of Monday after that incident happened. You're talking about civic education.
I think what is important is advocacy. The petroleum organization, the companies, must come out and educate our people. And more importantly, you know, this fuel was going to Uganda. If the jet in Uganda was ready, because the jet in Kenya is ready, we would not have had this incident. It's the delay in Ugandans doing their jetty that caused this to happen. But having said that, I think the public needs a more serious advocacy, and the best way to reach them out was to talk to the DCC and get the chiefs to be able to talk to the public. Because it looks like what happened in Sangwan, what happened in Sidindi, it looks like the public were not aware of the dangers of petroleum products. It's unfortunate, it's a very unfortunate incident happening right in my village.
But then some of the victims and the relatives of the victims, those who've lost their lives and those who've been admitted in hospitals, actually saying poverty is what pushed them to that level of going to siphon fuel.
I think, Brenda, with COVID, a lot of activity has gone down. A lot of things have been scaled down. So people, majority of Kenyans, not just in game, are suffering. And I think it is, I would say, it's maybe good luck that it happened at night. I don't know if it happened in the day, what would have happened. We would have been talking about huge numbers. We would have lost so many people. But thank God it happened in the night. And you ask yourself, even when it happened at night, you know, there's curfew. You know, I was lucky to have been the first person to know that this accident happened. And I tried to reach out. First, I called the governor, his phone was off. I called the county secretary, his phone was on, he couldn't pick it. The three people I reached out was only the assistant chief of the area, the OCPD, Bwana Chacha, and Dr. Doyo. And they were very helpful in rushing to the scene.
All right. Yes. So let's talk about the reality, because when the tanker, the fuel tanker, had the accident, some residents were able to manage to siphon the fuel, went back home safely. Others now went back for the second time to siphon fuel, and they didn't manage to come back alive. Others are actually nursing some serious injuries in the hospital. For those who managed to siphon fuel and take them back home, what has the county government done, Kisumu County government, together with security officers and yourself, to ensure that the fuel that was siphoned is actually out of the homesteads?
We made that announcement. We made that announcement on Monday. We made that announcement on Tuesday. As of yesterday, Brenda, there's one gentleman who was fearing that he would be arrested. So he had gotten burnt and was in his house. So we had rushed him to a hospital facility. It's very, very unfortunate. But we have made the announcement on radio. We have made the announcement in barazas, so that anybody keeping fuel should know is a risk. And if it explodes in their home, it will kill their families.
So how many people have returned the fuel that they siphoned?
As of now, I will not comment on it. I'll have to talk to the DCC Gemiala, who is Mr. Louis Rono. Yes.
So as a member of parliament representing the people of your constituency on the floor of the House, what are you going to do to ensure that the Malanga incident is the last incident that will be reported in this country when it comes to fuel tankers on the road, in terms of accidents and in terms of also siphoning of fuel by Kenyans?
I think as a member of GAME, and also, Brenda, as a member of Energy Committee, I'm going to push on legislation that the companies transporting the fuel must carry the burden of the tragedy. Number two, those companies must be responsible in the CSR to be able to educate the public on the implication of interacting with the petroleum product. And finally, we are going to push Uganda to ensure that both the PS, Bwana Andrew Kamau, and the MD KPC, Dr. Macharia, are able to push Uganda so that the jet in Uganda is ready, so that there is no transporting fuel between Kisumu to Kampala. That, I think, will probably reduce the menace.
All right.
But more importantly, I've had a discussion with James Macharia, the CS Infrastructure, and he has given me the assurance that he'll talk to Kenya so that we can put bumps, because that's a slope on where the truck overturned.
And as we bring this conversation to an end, Mheshimiwa, yes, you're saying that you're going to use the floor of the House Parliament to represent your people to pass a bill that will ensure that at the end of the day, victims are protected. But I mean, it is not the fault of the petroleum companies to plan, lack of a better word, to plan for their fuel tankers to have accidents. It happens. An accident is an accident. So aren't the people themselves supposed to take the responsibility, the individuals themselves, Kenyans themselves?
The Kenyans must take responsibility, but more importantly, the petrol companies must have an insurance that covers those kind of tragedies when they happen. I think that is important. And Brenda, is very unfortunate. I saw a tweet by one of the honorable members calling the people of Game fools, and I find that very wrong. The Honorable Chungwa must withdraw that statement from his Twitter account.
All right.
Yeah.
Such a sad incident right there for Gay Member of Parliament Elisha Odhiambo, who's actually mourning 20 residents of his constituency. Now the number stands at 20 and not 19. As of yesterday, we had reported 17. Today in the morning, I corrected it by saying 19. A few minutes ago, the Member of Parliament has actually confirmed that one person has succumbed to his injuries this morning, bringing the total number of the Malanga tanker tragedy, fire tragedy, to 20, as that is the latest information that you've gotten from him. And of course, in 2 weeks' time, families of the victims will be knowing their results in terms of the loved ones who lost their lives. And also, just to say that, yes, Honorable Elisha has said about the allegations he said. Let me just use the word allegations, because that is not from our side. It is from the side. It is sentiment from a Gay Member of Parliament, Elisha Odhiambo, who says that there is a tweet by Honorable Ichung'wah saying that residents who went siphoning of Malanga, who went siphoning for fuel, was stupid. But then those are just allegations that are that need a substantiation, and that is something that we're also going to be checking out for on his Twitter account. But then, thank you so much, Gay Member of Parliament Elisha Odhiambo, for your time and just for setting the record straight in terms of the numbers, in terms of the financial aid that residents of Malanga have gotten from the government, and more aid needs to be given to the families and the victims of the tanker tragedy that occurred on a Sunday. Away from that developing story, more details as and when we get it here on KTN News, we'll give it to you. But then a section of ODM leaders to Matters Politics are demanding that the party picks its